If you're a regular viewer of my channel, you might be able to guess that I am very much not into astrology, even though I haven't really talked about it all that much on my channel. I am a vocal critic of astrology, and one argument I sometimes get from astrologists is, you like Harry Potter, you've asked me what my Hogwarts house is before, and I like astrology. You can have your thing, and I can have my thing. What's the difference? I'll tell you the difference. On some level, this does seem like it could be a good argument. Hogwarts houses and astrological signs are both about character traits. In both cases, the information you're hoping to obtain about the person is, what kind of person are you? Are you stubborn? Are you brave? Are you curious? Are you shy? Are you short-tempered? Are you ambitious? Etc. However, there are important differences that make this argument fall apart. Firstly, to even compare Hogwarts houses to astrological signs is to acknowledge that astrology is not real. Because Harry Potter is not real. Many people that are into astrology do actually admit that they don't really believe in astrology. They just find it fun. But the difference is this. Harry Potter is completely fictional, and nobody believes it isn't. Everyone is perfectly aware that the Harry Potter series is a work of fiction created by J.K. Rowling, or Rowling, however you're supposed to say it, and is not intended to be thought of as real. If you do happen to find someone who legitimately believes the events of the Harry Potter series actually happened, and that the wizarding world is out there keeping itself secret from the muggles, you know that that person is clearly suffering from some sort of mental problem. So you yourself might not fully believe in astrology, but many other people do. And astrology does not make it known that it's fictitious. In fact, it does the opposite. It tries to make itself seem legitimate. And I've gotta wonder, even for those people who claim to not really believe in it when I critique it in front of them, is that 100% true? Is there really no part of you that actually believes in it? Because from my observations, it goes like this. Okay, so I don't really believe in it, but I am such a Capricorn. It fits me so well. So it's like, is it real though? I think they do believe in it. They're just afraid to admit it in front of a skeptic. So the second thing that makes a Hogwarts house different from an astrological sign is that it requires input on your part where astrology does not. If you go to pottermore.com, which I guess is wizardingworld.com now, I don't know when that changed, and take what I think is supposed to be the official Hogwarts house quiz, whatever that even means, you'll have to answer a bunch of questions. So I have a big problem with personality tests in general, such as the Myers-Briggs test. A self-administered set of 50 or so questions cannot truly hope to tell you who you are. Personalities change depending on the circumstances and who you're around. If you ask other people to judge your personality, they would give you different answers than you do. And the questions themselves are limiting and can kind of push you in a certain direction, and a different set of questions could produce a different personality result, and so on. However, that's not to say that personality tests are useless. Scientists do use them, such as the Big Five personality test, as far as I know. So your answers to questions can provide some information about who you are, even if it's not a complete picture. So the point is, these tests require a lot of input, answers to a wide variety of questions. Astrology only requires one piece of input. It only asks one question. When were you born? And maybe sometimes also your birth location, which, if you consider it in terms of where you're from geographically, it can be a good indicator of basic personality attributes, such as comparing personality dimensions of people who live in one country versus people who live in a different country, or people who live in this type of climate versus that type of climate. But astrology isn't asking this location for sociological reasons. There's something more legitimate about a personality test that gives answers based on a multitude of questions than one that gives answers based on one question. They certainly aren't always scientifically rigorous, but at least they ask you for more than your date of birth. So yes, even those BuzzFeed quizzes to find out what Disney princess you are based off of your favorite Olive Garden order are more legitimate than astrology. But really, this final difference, I think, is the most important one. While you can take a quiz to find out what Hogwarts house you belong to, you really don't even need to take one. You should know which Hogwarts house you belong to based off your personality. And this is the point. Your Hogwarts house does not tell you what your personality is. Your personality tells you what your Hogwarts house is. Your Hogwarts house does not predict your behavior. Compared to astrology, the causality is reversed. It is not that you are a Ravenclaw and that makes you curious, but that you are a Ravenclaw because you're curious. Astrological signs do the opposite. According to astrology, you behave this way because of what sign you are. It isn't your behavior determining your sign. Your personality dictates which Hogwarts house you belong to, and it really doesn't even matter that it's fictional, because all you're saying when you say that you're a Gryffindor is that, 1, you're a fan of Harry Potter, and 2, you think that you're brave and that you stand up for what's right, and maybe that you're also a little bit of a jock. But in astrology, your sign dictates your personality. And it's completely ridiculous, not to mention unscientific, which it needs to be if it's attempting to legitimately determine and predict your behavior, and be seen as something that's real and actually true, which of course it's not. Which a Hogwarts house is not attempting to do by any stretch of the imagination. And really, I'm not going to make fun of you for being into a hobby, for being obsessed with a TV show, or really liking a book, being an active member of a fandom. You can have interests. You can enjoy whatever you want to enjoy. However, when what you enjoy is trying to make itself seem true, but isn't true, whether it's astrology, flat earth, believing in God, healing crystals, homeopathy, climate change denial, then what you're doing is spreading misinformation and ignorance in the world, and I have to critique that and challenge that. To not do that, I feel, would be irresponsible. I might ask what Hogwarts house someone is in if I know they're a fan of Harry Potter, as a fun way to see how they characterize themselves. Which bucket they would put themselves into after having formed a personality. But I would never ask someone their astrological sign, because by doing so, I'm conveying to the person that I give some amount of credence to the idea that what the sky looked like the day I was born determines my personality, or really has anything to do with it at all.